Hey, this is our multimodal podcast. I'm TJ Hess, and to the left of me we have Co. We got Josh Canada, we got Michael, and we got
Max.
We got Max right here. We're just going to be talking about the modality of video games. Max, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So, some specific examples that we have of games that focus on not necessarily multimodality, but tend to teach you through multimodality, are games like the Souls games, like Elden Ring, and games like Dead by Daylight with their terror radius. Because of the way because of sound, it makes it very easy for you to sort of know where things are happening.
So I actually have to confess something. I have not even played Dark Souls, so if you were to explain this to me, what exactly would you say Dark Souls is about, and how do they use sound as a modality really well to help the player?
All right, so Dark Souls, as a specific example, tends to use sound in order to give you cues for certain actions.
Okay.
So a spell might make a specific sound that you'll hear, and you'll need to dodge it. Or there will be something that you'll block, and that'll give you an opening to attack, and it might make a sound that you can distinctly know, this is the sound for me too.
I remember I was watching this speedrunner last night, actually. He was speedrunning Castle Crashers, and there was these attacks. It's like a 2D platformer kind of, not really.
Right.
But there's these attacks that come from off screen, and it's either going to be arrows or icicles, and based on the sound that comes before the attack, that's how you know if it's going to be arrows or icicles and what you need to do to dodge it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like that, sort of, but except for way more complex, I'm imagining, because it's a three-dimensional fighter game, I guess. So do you guys have any other specific examples of audio used as a modality in video games and how it's used well?
I got one. I got
Sure.
Valorant. Valorant's really primarily is about audio. So you gotta listen to the footsteps, the gunshots, and also they have different sound cues for when the enemy has the ultimate and stuff.
Oh, that's right.
And the ability.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Have you guys played Valorant a lot?
I haven't played Valorant. I've played this game called Monster Hunters, and it's pretty similar to the Souls games in that a monster will make a certain sound or move a certain way before an attack, just to give you auditory cues. I haven't played the Souls games before, but I can appreciate the art style and especially the music. Mm-hmm. The soundtrack is pretty great.
Yeah, for me, another good use of auditory functions in the game would be a game called Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain. Well, there's a lot of sequels in the game. It's a big franchise, but the main function of the game is that it's a stealth game. So based on sound, everything, you're sneaking around, you're undercover. Your main purpose of the game is to go around enemies and make sure you're not seen, and basically play as an assassin. You're not a frontline brawler, or you're not a fighter type. You're sneaking around, you're taking enemies by surprise, and then sometimes you can use sound, for example, to bait enemies, for example, to throw a rock and trick the enemies to go in there, turn away. So
some Assassin's Creed set type stuff.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I really like that aspect of the game because it really makes you makes you think how can I strategize in this real real-time scenario.
Right. So I'm guessing this is a campaign type game, not a multiplayer PvP type of game.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's kind of like Assassin's Creed.
Kind of, yeah. Basically.
Okay,
Cool.
cool.
Sounds kind of similar to Dead by Daylight.
Well, yeah. I was going to talk about Dead by Daylight. I got distracted.
Might as well.
Yeah, because Dead by Daylight, it focuses on non-asymmetrical team-based gameplay, where one is a team of four, the other is just one person. And the one person, the killer, their job is to track down the four survivors. And the survivors don't have any way to really fight back necessarily. They just have to basically escape. But they can hide from the killer, and they'll know the killer's coming due to a terror radius or an area around the killer where they can sort of hear a distinct effect that belongs to whatever killer they are playing. and that gives you sort of a edge as a survivor.
So, what is Elden Ring? Again, explain it to me like I've never played it, because I actually also, I'm sorry guys, I've never played Elden Ring either. So, what is the auditory use in Elden Ring that is really unique?
That was a specific example of a Souls game.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
is Elden Ring a Souls game?
Yeah, it's the newest.
Now I sound really stupid.
But yeah,
That's
because that's where I was taking the magic example from. Because there's a specific area that's just completely full of like mages. It's like a mage academy,
Oh,
and they're around basically every corner. So you'll hear the spells before you actually see them a lot
that
of
makes
the time.
sense. That makes sense. Okay, so I guess that's enough for audio in specific video games. Let's start talking about like the other modalities of video games. We have to talk about the physical touch of video games, like whether it be like the controller or something like that. But before we go into physical things and physical uses that games have, let's talk about the visual, like graphics and the art styles. What are some video games that you guys can think of that use really cool, unique graphic art styles, or graphics and art styles? I mean, like the visuals. Like, what is appealing about the video game and its visuals, would you say? If like the first one that comes to your mind, Max?
Well, I've been playing a lot of Borderlands 3 recently.
Oh, yeah.
And that game has a very distinct art style because everything is sort of like outlined. I guess that's the word you'd use. In like a small black line. It gives it a very unique style.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes
kind of
to
cartoony.
Yeah.
It's
kind of cartoony.
2D popping into 3D. I think that's really like defined the series, is the art style and just how unique it is. I think that also attracted a lot of people to it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like, have you guys watched Arcane?
I have
Arcane.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that art style.
Yeah, the like 2D art style, but with depth, and there's also
Yeah,
like
it's like
some
Just because of like
cartoonish
the dark
elements in it.
outlines of
Yeah,
it.
it's like a
Right.
mix of like 2D and 3D.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what other video games? I mean, Borderlands is fantastic too. I mean, it even has like a great soundtrack too. But we're not talking about audio; we're talking about the visual. But what other video games use awesome visuals? Would you say, Ko?
For me, I think like some games really focus on the graphics rather than other functions of the game, and that really helps. For example, in this game called I think it's called Detroit Becomes Human. It has like pretty good graphics. It's very realistic, and it's like a choice making game. It's a story game. So based on your choices, the story outcome becomes different. Like different characters are affected. You basically like change the narratives of the story by making choices.
Does that kind of like change the outline, or sorry, not the outline? Does it kind of change the art style of the game when you make different choices?
Oh no, I'm just saying like
That's just the type of game it is.
yeah, it's just like
Okay,
there's
yeah.
no like action scenes. There's no fighting. There's no
It's
like
just strictly story.
yeah. There's no like like complex mechanisms or techniques. It's just like a story game and has like really good graphics. And I think the graphics really does help bring out the realistic side of the story.
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So it feels really real because the graphics are very well done.
Yeah, and like helps like tell the story better. And I feel like it's almost like watching a movie at that point.
What was the name of the game again?
Detroit Becomes Human.
Detroit Becomes Human.
Yeah.
I think in addition to like graphics, also I feel like Forza Horizon is also a pretty good game that's
Forza. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
focused on
That's another, like-
graphics. Like people invest in like 4K TV and stuff.
Just for Forza.
Yeah, just for Forza.
Right. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Another game off the top of my head that I can think of that's super realistic or the series is super realistic and the graphics are just incredibly well done is the Horizon series.
Oh, Horizon
Yeah.
Zero Dawn.
Like
those
Horizon
are
Zero
so
Dawn.
good done.
They came out with another one, Horizon Forbidden West, and it's just so well done. Everything's so beautiful.
I love the art styles of the the not animatronics, the like robot dinosaurs. I think they're so
Right.
sick looking.
Yeah.
Like the boss battles are so intense because like just the spikies and the metal on all of the bosses, and just they're completely covered in just like weird like hydraulic like wires and lines and spikes and stuff. It just looks like a really overpowering like entity that's just like, I am going to freaking destroy you, It's
Yeah,
it
it's
just
just-
looks super cool.
Really beautifully done with the stark contrast between like all the mechanical
And the greens
stuff in the
between
game
like
and then the nature
Uh-huh.
and everything, like all the naturescapes that you walk through.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Because there are a couple games that do stuff like that, and it's a thing in games. Like there's a name for it. I can't remember, but because there's like a rule of you have like mechanisms and you have like sort of like rust and just like nature taking over all of that, and games like
Horizon.
Sorry. Because I also thought about Ghost of Tsushima, because I haven't played it, but I've seen a lot of the art from that game. It's so pretty.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, I guess I just want to talk just briefly about physical games. Cuphead is another great visual game. Before we move on, Cuphead's another great visual game. It's got a really cool art style. But I want to talk about some physical components, just so we cover the three modalities that are most generally used in video games. We've talked about the audio. We've talked about the visual. I just want to mention, briefly, you have video games that use specific controllers and things like that are much more. It gives you a more unique experience for the gameplay. This isn't specific to video games necessarily. I mean, you have games like Skylanders that uses the portal or the little characters that you put on the portal, and that's a physical game component that you use in the video game, I guess, which is a cool and unique idea. There's amiibos and Smash Bros. But really, the physical component of video games obviously isn't the most necessary. But I guess that kind of concludes the three modalities. Do you guys have anything else to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, for tactile, you almost do get that just by playing a game. To be entirely fair.
It is also about the controls.
Right. It's like you're controlling the game. So there's that sort of element. Which,
right.
There is also the difference between mouse and keyboard and console, because a lot of controllers have rumble now, where the controller will vibrate and interact with you.
Rumble is super
Right.
important
Do
for the feel of
different
the game.
things in the game, and that's very immersive, because if you perform an action and you feel it yourself, it's
Nice.
I can't remember exactly, but there was something with the PlayStation 5 controllers where they have something on the triggers, basically, that makes it more interactive.
Oh, where
the
it's harder
vibrating
to
thing.
press, the
Yeah.
realistic trigger, I think is what it is.
Right.
Is that what you're
that's what
talking
it
about? Where they pull the trigger and have kickback, or
Yeah.
it'd be hard to pull it kind of, so it's,
okay.
it feels more like a real life trigger. Yeah, very cool. Okay, well that concludes pretty much the modality of the video games that we wanted to talk about. We covered some specific examples of video games and how they use different kinds of modality to interact with the video game. So thanks for listening, and I hope you guys have a great day.